So thank you for this family film. I know that Sarah shared that Henry is really a girl. So are there any other fun facts that you can share about the film that maybe the audience doesn't know?
That Gil was harder to work with than JC. No. Just,
Did I stump you guys?
Yeah, no, you know, it was pretty funny. The first week of shooting, we shot at the house, and it was on a street in New Orleans, and every day, all day, even into the night, there would be about 20 of the neighbors sitting in the front yard right across from us, and they would all have little tables, and they'd bring out their lounge chairs. I'm not joking. And they would all be drinking wine, watching the movie be made all day long, 20 of them. It was like so wild to me. It was really cool, but they were so fascinated. But it wasn't one day. It was every day. And it was so Southern, you know, it was like the Southern women with the wine and the thing and all dressed up. And I'm like, oh, wow. That's the only thing I can really think of, you know, offhand that would be intriguing for an audience to know.
What made you to want to do this movie, and what is it that you would like your audience goers to learn when they finish watching the movie? What is the takeaway?
As far as like why I wanted to film it after reading the scripts, what really spoke to me was just, I liked the message of how powerful and important appreciating the simple things and actually like thinking like a dog, which is a huge message of the film, is just appreciating the people around you and all the things that you take for granted, and just all the people that you love and really giving back to them. And that was really what spoke to me the most when I read the script, was that message, which was a really big part of why I wanted to film it. And then also, I really just like the dynamic between Oliver and the dog, and I thought Oliver was a really fun character. And I love the whole family dynamic. I don't think most of you watched it yet, but when you watch it, the family dynamic is really, really heartwarming and believable. So that's why I wanted to film it.
For me, well, since I wrote it, the message, it's a different thing than Gabe, but I'm glad that he responded to the script the way he did, because I wrote this script, not to be a downer, but I wrote this when I knew I was going to get divorced, or I believed I was going to get divorced. And I had two young kids, 8 and 11. I was very concerned about what was going to happen to them. Are they going to be okay? And during this time, I actually found myself being comforted by my dog a lot. I'm not joking. You know, I'd be in bed and I'd be nervous, and what do I do? And should I leave? Do I wait till they go to college? You know, a lot of parents have these unfortunate dilemmas. And I realized there was, you know, my dog is always happy. He's just always happy. And so I wanted to, you know, I realized, wow, I thought to myself, I wish I could be like that. Like, how does he do that? And then, you know, it's obvious. The dog, to me, is very much like a baby, in that all babies want to do is love and be loved. That's it. And so that's sort of the message of the film, you know, if there is a takeaway, which is, you know, let's stop overcomplicating our lives and having all of these messages that, you know, kind of deflect what is really in front of you, you know, because of your upbringing or whatever. just appreciate the simple things, and so many problems will dissipate. I truly believe it. So, and yeah, I think we captured that. I was not to embarrass Gabe, but you know, we were very close to shooting. I think I was like 3 weeks out without the lead, without Gabe, without the boy. And Andrew Lazar and I had read, oh my God, hundreds. And Gabe came to my house actually and read for Andrew and I, and within 45 seconds, I think I had tears in my eyes, because I realized I found an extraordinary talent that would elevate the quality of my film, and my instincts were right. He killed it. He killed it. He's so talented.
Thank you.
It's true.
What would you say was your favorite day on the set, and why?
For me, at least, I'll go, I guess. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think there were two outstanding moments that came to mind. When we shot the scene where Gabriel came downstairs and confronted his parents, geez, I'm almost emotional now. And he came down the stairs and confronted his parents whether or not dad was moving and are you guys getting divorced. Wow. That to me, that was, I always felt was the most emotional scene in the film, and probably one of the most important scenes for Gabriel's character, because that is the scene where, I hate to sound manipulative, but I really wanted Gabriel to break the audience's heart, which would then become what they call in film writing the rooting element. And the rooting element is, why are you rooting for a character? Why are you willing to watch this movie and for 90 minutes or whatever it is? And I knew that if we did a good job in that scene, then the audience would be willing to go along for the ride. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I can honestly say, yeah, I was totally crying on set. I wrote the damn thing and had no idea it could be that powerful. I was just stunned by everyone's performance, but in particular, Gabriel's, because to achieve that much emotional depth at his age, when he was like 13 or whatever it was, that's extraordinary. That's why there's like 2 amazing breakout child actors in the world. You know, Natalie Portman was one of them way back in the day, and I don't even know who else, but it's a tremendous accomplishment for a person as young as that. Right. And so that was, I couldn't have been happier that day, even though I was crying.
Aww.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like, I don't know if you ever saw 10 Things I Hate About You, but there was a speech that Julia Stiles gave, the 10 Things I Hate About You speech. It was very similar to me. It was just like, oh my God, I am looking at greatness, you know, and that for a director, I don't know if there's a better high than that. Right. And then the other thing that just popped into my head for your question is when I was, I had hiked 2 hours for 2 hours in 97-degree heat with an entire 100-man and woman film crew hiking into the Great Wall of China. And we finally, everyone is soaked. I don't mean like, you know, the ring you see. I mean, everyone was drenched and it was exhausting. And then the next thing I know, we're getting ready to shoot, and I'm flying 2 drones, and I'm directing a movie that I wrote. My son is standing next to me on the Great Wall of China. There's a crew of 100, and I'm shooting this movie because I had an idea 3 years ago, and I'm on the Great Wall of China. It was that was pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Oh man. And because they gave us so much freedom where we could shoot, interestingly, because the one of the co-financiers of the movie, his dad was a general in the Chinese army.
Oh my God.
And oh no, it was like we were royalty. So that to me was also, that's one of the joys that movie making, if you're lucky enough to be working in movies, you can, not only do you get to travel, but standing on the Great Wall, 2 drones and 100 people looking at me, didn't speak a word of English. That was pretty awesome.
For me, I also have like 2 days that come to mind. The first day was one of my favorites just because like meeting everyone on set, meeting all the crew. I had already met Gail and some of the producers, but meeting JC and getting to bond with her and try to build chemistry, not just with JC or the dog, but also with like all of my other castmates and my parents, is always a really special thing when you're first starting a film to bond with people. So that, looking back, especially once you're done with something, looking back to the first day is always kind of nostalgic. So that one. And then also the last day when I wrapped, everyone, I don't know whose idea it was, but there was a plan that had been set up for a while from one of the crew members where they blindfolded me and they like led me to a different part of the set. And I had no idea what was going to happen. And then I think it was like a crew of almost 200, 300 people. And when they pulled off the blindfold, everyone had silly string and just like laughed at me for like 30 minutes probably of just like straight silly string, which was insane. It was like by far, it was I didn't know there could be that much silly string in like one place. But probably those.
Estimate to how much the crew loved you.
We know dogs are unpredictable, and even the best trained dogs get a little crazy sometimes. So my question for either one of you, both of you, is did you get any inspiration while you were filming that changed things up, so you had maybe some improvisation from the dog that actually made it into the movie, something that maybe would like happened while you were filming, if oh my gosh, I need to leave that in?
It's interesting, just thinking back, obviously most of the things that you do with a dog on set, they're really well planned out, and they have to be, and they're planned out a month or 2 in advance, and then Sarah would send me videos. Here's what I'm thinking, and here's how, like the bit. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of any of the bits. Then she would bring the dog to set, and then she would show me, how it works. And kind of just because the dogs, they need to learn that pattern, because if he's not performing, it's a lot of money if we're waiting around, for a trainer to calm a dog down. And, another phenomenal advantage of using Sarah was, I don't think we ever waited for the dog to settle down. And, it's $100,000 a day, if not more. So if you lose 2 hours on set with a crying baby or a dog, it's a lot of money. I think the only bit we came up with that I hadn't planned, and I think it wasn't something the dog did, it was something that I thought, Jesus, this dog is so responsive. I wonder if he could do this. And we had the dog pull the carpet out from one of the actors and cause the actor to fall. That was, I think, worked really well. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I can't think of anything else.
Don't be sorry. That was great.
Well, it's so you don't have the time to go, oh yeah. Now, did I realize, while shooting, oh my God, I can get Henry to do this a ton. And a lot of that had to do with Henry or whatever dog we were using, but primarily JC, working with eye contact. Because when I realized that he could really look right at that lens and for a long period of time, oh my God, I would immediately adjust shooting because especially in this scene, I don't know if you remember, when Henry jumps onto the bed and explains the plan, basically how to make mom and dad, they've lost the sense of love, and it's because they forgot who they were, and we got to bring them back to that when all we had was each other, and blah, blah, blah. And we have to teach mom and dad how to think like a dog. When I realized I had the ability with this particular dog to look literally right in the lens, right? So I changed my shot pattern so that then Gabriel was looking right into the lens. And I am telling you, it's such a powerful connection because they're both looking right at each other. And I've never been able to do that with an animal before. And by animal, I mean Gabe. That's it for me. What do you think, Gabe? Were there things that like came up impromptu? I can't quite remember.
I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's kind of a testament just to how well behaved and how great JC was, and that speaks to Sarah and all the other trainers. But I can't really think of like anything that happened on set that specifically with the dogs that wasn't planned. I guess just like there were probably little things like in the scene in the very last scene, he's kind of jumping up and down.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
like,
that was cool.
On all of us, and a lot of that wasn't like planned necessarily. It was just kind of like letting us play with the dog and letting him run wild and jump around. So I guess that's kind of like the only thing that comes to mind. But yeah, I don't know.
Hi, this question is for Gabe. I was just wondering, what was the best part about having a dog as your co-star?
I don't know. There were a lot of benefits. For one, it's really like just lifts your spirits to always have something that it feels like you're communicating with it a lot, even though you're probably on like a lesser scale than you would think. But it just feels like she was always excited to be around people and be on set, and kind of that influenced me to just be happy to go to set every day and like be happy to work. So that was really, really beneficial. I've worked with dogs a few times before, and this one was different. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, just because she was so sweet, and I genuinely felt like I had a connection to her, like she was my own dog. So it was it was just a lot of fun to have that much positive energy to be around all the time.
For Gil over there, so we've seen movies like this before, right? Like you can listen, you can hear your dog talk, or you know what babies are saying, or even read the minds of people. But usually it's like with kind of a magical or mystical thing that happens to do that, to make that happen. But in this film, it's like real science-based. I wanted to know why you took on, made this such a scientific type movie, science-based.
That's a good question. I actually believe, I used to think in my lifetime, but maybe not now, but in Gabe's lifetime, but I've always believed, even when I was a kid, that within my lifetime, we'll be able to read other people's minds electronically. And I just think that's fascinating. I think the concept of that potential technology being in the future, whoa, it brings up a lot of possibilities and a lot of dangers, actually. Mm-hmm. And I wanted the movie to be realistic. I didn't want it to be some kid movie with a talking dog. Yeah. And as I'm sure you saw in the film, the parents, they had very real roles. They weren't like the old people upstairs. You know what I mean? And when I was doing the research for the film, I was trying to just get words that made sense. So I was writing up thought transference and looking up thought transference and analog sound to digital energy, blah, blah, blah. And I came across an interview with a scientist, I think it was in 1862 or 3 or something. And the scientist was doing, in 1860 something, the exact experiment that I did in the movie. And that scientist, because he believed that you could, in fact, if you had a sensor sensitive enough to read the electrical current and then amplify it, in theory, it should work. That wacky scientist was Alexander Graham Bell. He was literally working on this thought transference as early as 62. And when I read the article, first of all, I was stunned. But he said, if you apply the laws of electricity to the human brain, and electrical thoughts are electricity, if you apply those laws, you should in fact be able to amplify those laws. And that's pretty cool. So anyway, that's why.
My question's for Gil. There have been so many great questions so far, but is that Skittles there on the couch with you?
Oh, you see him? Oh, there he is, yeah.
So, you know, since Skittles was such an inspiration for the film, what does Skittles think of the film?
He liked it. He felt that his performance was actually, it's funny, you know, during the editing process, of course, you know, I would take the cut and I'd watch it at home, and I'd watch it at home with my kids because they gave me good feedback. And I am telling you, Skittles would sit, I'm not joking, in the middle of the floor watching that TV. And whenever one of the dogs came on the screen, he would walk right up to the TV and stare at the dog. It was awesome. I actually have video of him doing that. I mean, he knew that was a dog on screen, you know, and it was like watching. So yes, Skittles enjoyed the film.
What was your favorite part about being Oliver?
So I really liked the science aspect actually of his character, because I've never played a character that was that interested in science, let alone like an inventor. So it was really fun to like mess around with ideas and be able to like talk about fake inventions that he made, especially the main invention that kind of goes wrong and like leads to the whole premise of the film. But that was just really fun to be able to play around with and mess with, because I've never actually got to do that before. And I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm interested in science because I don't know that much about it, but the little that I do know, I've always found really fascinating. So that was probably one of my favorite parts.
I have a question about your co-stars. You guys had a lot of great people in this film, but what I want to know is who out of everybody on set with you kind of embraced that think like a dog mentality. And it's okay if it's you can say that, it's allowed, but I'm just kind of curious who's already living their life that way. Like who would you point out and say they've got this figured out?
You know, I don't know. I kind of Josh Duhamel. Out of everyone, I would say Josh. Yeah, he is really positive, and I feel like he has a good mentality. We had a lot of conversations, and I would say out of everyone, so that definitely Josh.
Awesome.
I would say the same. I would say Josh as well, and just personally, it's how I am trying to learn to live my life. I have personally done a lot of work on myself spiritually. I know that sounds corny to some, but my comfort level at the age of 65 is, I'm a different man than I was 5 years ago. And boy, do I enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Who cleans your damn kitchen, by the way? Jesus.
Isn't that gorgeous? It's stunning, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
It's a Zoom background.
What?
It's a Zoom background.
Yeah, oh, you're kidding. I thought that was your kitchen. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, no. I'm hiding the hot mess that's reality.
That's funny. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's cute.
I want to do that next time.
So I have a question for Gabe. So you said that you had such a strong bond with Henry. And so on the last day of filming, what was the experience like having to say goodbye to all the cast, but also having to say goodbye to Henry?
Well, it's always really hard when you have to say goodbye to everyone on set, because like at the end of it, you're really a family because you're working together, but especially if it's a taxing film, like this one was kind of emotionally taxing at times. It forces you to bond with everyone around you. So, and I had already actually worked with a lot of the crew, so I had a really strong connection to a lot of the crew and a lot of the cast. So it's never easy, but I just like to think of it as you'll probably see them again. Like I've seen a lot of the same people since I filmed. So I don't really think of it as like goodbye, which makes it easier. But especially saying goodbye to JC and all the other dogs and all the trainers was really difficult because again, we formed such a special bond, and I haven't really had anything similar to it in any other project I've done. It was honestly like having to say goodbye to my own dog, which would obviously be hard. So it was definitely hard, but I'm sure I'll probably work with a lot of the same people again, and hopefully Jason.
Gil, I'm gonna get a little personal here. So you you got divorced, right?
I did.
So why did you change the ending where it's kind of is it just to have a happy ending, or?
That's a fantastic question. I shot 2 endings because what I really wanted was to show that there can be joy after divorce if both parents are on the same page, if both parents genuinely love their children. That is the message I wanted to put out there. Because I have 2 kids and I think they feel very loved by both of us. So I shot both endings because American audiences in general like a happy ending. But I thought I handled both, shouldn't say that, but I believe that I handled both honestly, as you know, not necessarily well, but honestly. And when we first screened the movie for a test audience of like 500 people, just like the big studios do, and I had my choice ending in, which was Josh lived a half a mile away, and he would come over every Sunday for family, and it was a sweet, you know, it really showed that 2 people can get divorced and still be loving of their children, which is the truth. Mm-hmm. And here's the crazy thing. When we tested the movie, no one in the audience realized that they were divorced. The audience was rooting so strongly for them to stay together, they did not understand or see that Josh clearly said, wow, it only took me 20 minutes to get here from my new place. And so the audience they were so on board with wanting them to heal that I thought, how can I not give them what they wanted? So I put the B version in, and the numbers in the test screening jumped considerably. So that's what people wanted. So I wanted to give them what they wanted. You know, the movie's about love, no matter what it is, whether you're under the same roof or not. So it didn't change the context of the movie or the structure of the movie or even the message of the movie. You know, live your life simply, have gratitude for everyday things, and your life's going to be better because of it. And I believe that. So that's the answer.